right, guys. Quick shout out here. My MetaFi is home of all the guest primers, all the free tournaments, all the giveaways, and all my personal guides. These guys in front of you are freshly updated over there. You see Issa Tempo, Beanstalk Control, Jeskai Wizards, Eldrazi Aggro, Blue-Eyed Riddler, Demir Tempo, Affinity, Omniscience. All these and more you find over on my MetaFi. Use code ECO50 for a juicy 50% off your first month as a Book Smart Baron. I can't wait to see you over there. All right, guys, welcome back to yet another basement battle. I'll be playing against Bosh and Roll, and the job is simple. Pick 3 decks, or build them, or get them handed to you by your members. 3 decks outside of the top 15 on Goldfish last 7 days, and this time I was a little bit in the lap. So let's have a look at this deck. We all remember these decks from the past. I think it was like Bant Order and Rug Order, which was basically Natural Order Progenitus in a somewhat tempo shell. I've tried to repeat some of that. I'm here to present a Sultai version. It is a Green Sun Zenith deck. The end goal is Natural Order for Atraxa, and I'm trying to find some flexible Zenith cards, with the bread and butter being Ice Fang Kotal, a mana base that allows me to hopefully fetch a bunch of basics. I have, standard good cards like the One-Drop column here. And then I have a little bit of Wasteland Recursion with Witherbloom, 6 forces, some awesome 3-drops to pick from when it comes to Zenith, and then a couple of Murktide Regions as to kind of round out the deck. As I said, 6 forces, 4 Thoughtseizes to give myself a fighting chance against generic combo. Sideboard, I am playing super standard cards. I guess the Collector Roof stands out a little bit because it's a card I can go and get with Green Sun, so it's like playing 5 Null Rods in your deck. I mean, that's pretty good for 1 slot. Other than that, I am going up to 4 forces, bunch of consigns, Baragorys for fair stuff, Surgicals for graveyard, and then Carpets as my, I guess, a little bit of a cheat sheet, because that lets me, hardcast Atraxa, utilize Yorion, big Zeniths, etc. So, yeah, this should be a lot of fun. Let's get into the game. All right, we're here for the first match of the basement battle. Bosh and Roll was the more skilled die roller, and we'll go first. I'm playing my Buck Natural Order deck, which you can't really tell. This hand looks great. I mean, this looks like any normal Legacy hand, so the flavor of the deck is, yet to be revealed. My opponent goes turn 1 Tamio, I'll have to force it. This is something I mention a lot in my videos. Essentially, the theory being Moonshadow. That card is awesome. Is it awesome enough to force a will? Unfortunately, I think yes. Let's force a will that, pitch Ponder. I really don't like doing that. No, Wasteland is a dead card. And now, ooh, Petal. Okay. Stalker. Okay, so the opponent has a 2/2. 3 cards left. What can I do about that? I can stop the bleeding with a Thoughtseize or get Tamio going. I actually like stopping the bleeding because my hand is, I need time, basically. Burning Inquiry, Anvil. Okay, this is awesome. Let's see this. At the beginning of each player's draw step, draw 1, discard 1. So that card is insane with Moonshadow. I see that. Okay. Burning Inquiry is uncastable, so why don't we take that card? Then the Ursa Saga play is annoying. Thankfully, Brian didn't draw anything here to put on more pressure, because I actually would have been in... Ooh, this is good for me. So let's do Fatal Push. Guess I should do that right away. Let's see. Brian's hand is Burning Inquiry and a random magic card. I don't think I should take more damage from this Stalker. Okay, there's a fetch. Also, Burning Inquiry is very good with Orcish Bowmasters, so there's that as well. Let's see if Brian is interested in casting that card. I don't know if it makes much sense, to be honest. Right now, Brian knows I'm a blue-black deck that also wants to fetch basics. Burning Inquiry and a random card. So now, if Brian fires Burning Inquiry, it flips to Tamio, which is pretty cool. Let's see. Brian playing out land first. Okay. Are we gonna draw discard? So I draw discard. So now I get to flip my Tameo kind of for free. So let's see. Draw and discard. Force of Will, is that a good card? I think it is pretty good. So now the question is, do I get rid of land or cantrip? How about I get rid of that card? Attack with Tameo, flip Tameo. I think that's a pretty good way to put pressure on Brian. So now flip the Tameo. Another Thoughtseize. Is that card? I don't even think that card's worth casting because it's some material I might want later for Brainstorm. Now Brian is gonna loot. Okay. Thoughtseize. Now I think I just let Brian take my cards here. It's funny, I've only played like normal tempo cards so far, basically. Taking the Brainstorm. And now I can go and fetch a Hedge Mace. And yeah. I mean, Bergtide Region, don't mind if I do. That card is amazing here. So now draw. Discard this one easily. Let's see, how much stuff do I have down there? I can make Murktide a 9 and pass with Force of Will backup by going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then -3 the Ponder. It grows to 9. Pass. I have Assemble Force blue card with a 2-turn clock. Brian with no Surveil land with the way this is going. Anvil. Well, here comes the Burning Inquiry. The opponent's on 1 card. Is this just where I draw 3, discard 3 at random? It seems so... I don't know. Draw 3, discards with your 3. Okay, let's see. Okay, Force of Will is gone. Brian is left with 1 card. A card was not necessarily good enough. I think I'm going to show... Okay, here's Street Wraith. So yeah, Currency Converter. Funnily enough, if I had Endurance, I could hit harder, but I don't. Grist is a good one. Maybe this is where I lock my opponent with Leovold for the heck of it. You can see that. So... Green Sun Zenith. Leovold. Plus pass. All right. So Brian did not see that I'm a natural order deck. But he's a blazing fast aggro deck. That's scary because I only have 2 relevant cards. Let's see. The negations are terrible. Consigned memory. No. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna submit this. I really... Yeah, I had to force a Moon Shadow. That was brutal, but the thing is, Tameo just took over the game, right? Gave me an extra card, brought back a card. Yeah. Let's see, the Anvil card is insane with Bowmasters. Bowmaster is actually a little bit of a weakness for this deck. So now Brian learns about... He's learned about the Zeniths, but he doesn't know about the orders. I don't know. Is order good against a deck like that? The thing is, some of Brian's creatures will have Menace, which is super annoying. So even I could see myself in a situation where I think I stabilize with Atraxa, but I don't because, ooh, this is abysmal. I have to mulligan here. This is not great either, but I think I have to keep. Get rid of, I guess, Murktide. That card is a little too far down the road. Turn 1 Stalker. Let's see if there's any help. Okay. Oh yeah, Descent. Okay. Okay, Delighted Halfling is not bad. I'm gonna do that. Brian's deck does a scary amount of puts on a scary amount of pressure. Let's see what this is. Anvil. Okay. Anvil, attack for 2. Let's draw a discard, see what happens. Natural order. Okay, so that means I have a Traxa next turn. If I let the Saga stay. Is that the move? Traxa next turn if I let the Saga stay. Okay. I guess I'll have to play towards that, so I'll have to Zenith for Birds of Paradise. Which card is it that I don't really care about here? Maybe it's the Thoughtseize. Let's discard that. Now let's go Green Suns for Birds of Paradise. Attack for 1. Not impressive. It ain't much, but it's honest work. I'm going to let my opponent have the Saga because that, in theory, occupies the opponent's mana. And if I, get an Atraxa in the meantime, take those. The Stalker keeps growing, and I'm only taking 2 this turn. Let's see if Brian... Oh, Chains. That is cool. That is awesome. Because now I think this is like Mind Twist. Oh, wait a minute. Discard a card. Yeah, let's just see what happens here. Discard a card. Uro. Ready to go discard. Thoughtseize. Okay, so lose the natural order. Brian got me there. That card attacks. So now I can Uro out of the bin. Let's see. I have to discard here. Let's see what this is. I don't know. How does this work? I just do it twice. Fair enough. Here comes Uro. Is Brian ever a Wasteland deck? I think I'm just supposed to get Underground Sea. Green, green, blue, blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Uro, and I guess mill the top card, or how does this work? Okay, nothing happens. And now, what 1-mana artifact is the opponent searching up here that's going to hurt me? Because the opponent is going to lose a land here. I'm actually okay. Let's find out what the opponent's searching for. This is kind of a play that works against Cephalid Breakfast, where you let them kind of go ahead and use the Saga, but they lose another land in the process. So Chains, let's see. Does Chains just lock out every player here? Do you mill? Yeah, it's funny. I don't even know how Brian gets out of this. Because I think we can only do something in this window. So discard that. Discard that. Put Yori onto hand. I don't even know if I'm supposed to do that. How is Brian supposed to get out of this? Okay. That's a good answer. The converter will start making choo-choos. I've never been more punished before, but I guess that's cool. So if I knew how to play the game against weird cards, I would kill the Saga, and the opponent would be locked out of the game. Discard a card. Yes. Discard a card. Yes. So I actually get to play with this Zenith, which is kind of funny. So what if I go... What if I go Leovold here? Is that even relevant? I can Uro out of the graveyard after this. How does that work? If I... What happens if I Green Sun for 3 and I Grist to death the Stalker? Attack for 6. Then the opponent can only make a 2/2, so they can keep chum blocking, I guess. But then, let's see. Attack 4. They kill Grist and keep chum blocking. Okay, so there's some kind of lock going on here I have to think about. What else can I Zenith for? Magic is hard. I did not bring in Collect Roof. And I think I'll lose to Zenith for good if I don't fire it. Let's see what this is. Green Sun Zenith. Bryant is responding in case I brought in Oof, but I'm not good enough to do that. Huh. What happens if I find Grist and I plus it? Then I pass the turn. If Brian wants to attack with both, I can double block over here. I don't know. Let's try it. This seems very complicated. Huh? Yeah, this game was complicated. I think I gave up all the equity in the world when I let the Saga survive, because I was like, hey, what's the worst thing that can happen? But I think we're currently seeing the worst thing that can happen. Brian is currently stable. I wish... Let's see. So that card is done. That card is done. Main phase. So now, what happens if I Grist and attack for 6? Grist the Stalker, attack. The opponent chum blocks. The opponent makes a 2/2. How many creatures do I have in my yard? 1, 2, 3, 4 creatures in my graveyard. So what happens if I attack and replay Uro? Attack and replay Uro. Dang, I have no idea what to do here. Magic's too hard. So there is this kind of lock going on that I mean, I have no idea how to solve this. I don't know my own deck well enough, and I don't know the opponent's deck well enough. How does this game end? Because we only have what we see here. I already spent my Yorion turn. Chum block. Yes, so that's kind of the wash thing about this. So now What happens if I sacrifice the insect to kill the stalker? Then my opponent can make a 2/2 that will attack Grist. So maybe I should sacrifice the birds. Sacrifice the birds to kill this one. Because then I have 2 power to kill that attacking token. Then I can never replay my Uro. Okay, let's try it. I'm basically trying to force my opponent to play offense and defense. Here's the 2/2. So I guess I can draw nice Magus. So I guess I can draw a fatal push, unless... No, maybe I can't, because it's like a loot. I don't know. Okay, so here comes the block I was talking about. So I think what's going to happen now is I will... Yep, that card is gone. Yep, the card is gone. I think this is where I stabilize, but I'm not sure. The opponent's going to go to 4. I'm going to block. And then the opponent has to keep blocking my Uro. I don't know, dude. These are the hardest games I play all week. I can tell you that. Discard. Now Brian is in must chum block mode. And I can kind of overwhelm over. Also, Brian's at 4 here, and I have Grist. So each opponent loses life equal to the number of creatures. Yeah. So Brian needs a magic trick to beat me here. And no magic trick. All right. This hurt my brain a lot. Small break, more magic. Guys, last month I launched my YouTube membership program. You can become a YouTube Baron. For $5 per month, you get Metagame Monday After Dark, where I basically dissect all the numbers from Metagame Monday, turn them into actual solutions for us to win tournaments in the week to come. And then I have this juicy series with Eureka Eyes on the Prize, where we replay the 5 challenge finals every week. So basically, we get to see some championship action week after week. So that's 2 additional videos for the cost of $5 per month. I can highly recommend. But wait, there's more. When I get to 100 members, I will give away this awesome artist proof signed Kappa Cannoneer. Beautiful card, a retro frame hollow. If you want to be in that draw, go become a YouTube Baron. I hope to see you over there. All right, next deck is another spicy number here. I'm not quite sure what you're looking at, but I'm calling it a Demir Nishing Returns. This deck has Hull Breacher, Orcish Bowmasters, and Narset that basically punish or prevent the opponent from drawing cards. And then I'm trying to fire off a Days Undoing or Diminishing Returns. Diminishing Returns, say draw 7, that forces me to exile the top 10 card of my library. Look, this can, of course, backfire. And there's also the fact that this is up to 7 cards. So let's say with the Bowmasters in play, you don't fully punish your opponent. If they don't draw, that is. With Hull Breacher in play, they simply just, get Mind Twisted. I don't get the mana. So there's some stuff going on there. And then likewise, Days Undoing does not work with Orcish Bowmasters because the turn ends. So a little bit tricky. I maybe should have thought about finding room for a single Sheldred. That would have been cool. Can we do this last minute? Find room for a single Sheldred? Maybe not. Maybe that's going to be too complicated, but yeah, you can consider Sheldred for sure. My choice of win con is Quad Baragoyf. I think that's going to be super solid. I'm rocking Soul Lance with Chromox for acceleration and some standard cards to round out the deck. You know, forces and standard Demir stuff. Sideboard looks like a normal Demir sideboard, to be honest. Consigns, Hydros, Negations, Sweepers, Flexible Planeswalker removal, Thoughtseize for any unfair / control, a couple of more spot removal, and a couple of graveyard shenanigans. I mean, it would be pretty awesome to fire off a diminishing returns against Brian here. Let's see if we can pull it off. All right, match 2. I can't say I was happy with how I played the previous one, but that's Magic sometimes. Oh, this looks absolutely terrible. Well, I think this is all about getting into the game, so this card can probably stay away. Underground Sea Pass is unimpressive at best. Let's see what we're fighting this time. The black-red deck was too awesome. All right, Bosh with a signature opening. I need my brainstorm to find, you know, sustainable mana so I can start casting stock ups, and then maybe down the road thinking about trying to win the game. Oh, wow. This is actually quite cool. So now I can go put back Tameo, put back maybe just a copy of Brainstorm, then cast Chromox, imprint Brainstorm, play Ancient Tomb, cast Stock Up. This is kind of a must counter for Brian. Force pitch Tameo, yes. So the reason why I put him like this is if stock up resolves, I don't have to like prioritize my stock up. So that's why I keep it in hand. You know, I can get thought seized and I look like a fool. But Flooded Strand did not give me those vibes. Stoneforge Mystic, always a pleasant card to be facing. I love that card. He's taking Meteor Sword because he thinks he's playing against Brian thinks he's up against a show and tell version. Well, he's not. So if I take land, Force a Will, I don't even know if flipping Tameo makes any sense here. Meteor Sword is annoying. Maybe I just go Tameo, Force a Will, any order, play Tameo. Yeah, this is going to be a bit rough. Playing, you know, imprinting, mulliganing. Ooh, nice. This is Brian's favorite card. He has done a lot of bad things to me with that card in the past. Yeah, that's just a good play. Now the question is if Brian's ready to kill the Ancient Tomb. But I think he's going to give me credit here for like slow rolling land, show and tell, what have you. If I actually get to this point, okay, that's kind of cool. Let's cast Brainstorm to see if we can get closer to something broken. We unfortunately cannot, because I'm forced to stare at these cards for an eternity. Let's play out a land. Let's pass. So right now, it looks like, from the point of view of Brian, that I'm kind of locked from what am I supposed to say here? That I'm locked from the Meteor Sword thing, and now Brian can start doing that, and there's Caracas. So I guess I should have countered that card if I wanted to stand a chance this game. So now I lose 2 things, and the opponent can lose 2 mana sources. Yeah, I think it's the better move to concede here. I think I should have countered the dog. It just looks silly here, just to concede, right? So with force in hand, that was just bad. Okay, so Brian has no idea what's what's going on here, which is could be an advantage. Chrome Mox. Chrome Mox. So I think, what about cutting something like a Day's Undoing, a Chrome Mox, and some Forces. I think that's how I want to play. I have some removal spells now. So the cool thing is my anti-draw stuff are actually good against Brian, and he is likely to have sideboarded out the white cards. But let's see. Let us see. Also possible that this is slightly better. Just 2 Forces, 3 diminishing returns. Let's try that out. Basically, I just want to slam, you know, Tamio has to die. Bowmasters, you know, Enois, Brian, Hullbreacher, Enois, Baragoyf. That's kind of the plan, to keep casting. Must deal with. Stock up certainly qualifies. Yeah, this is a keep. But without a land on top, this is going to be a little bit bad. Let's see. 2 diminishing returns in the opener. Not optimal. Land pass. Also, the problem with this hand is, aside from the fact that I need a land right now, is it's kind of bad against Brian's, you know, proactive stuff. So now I can Hullbreacher into diminishing returns, which is awesome. Is that the move, though? Or do I start elsewhere? Because I could cast... Let's say I put back... I really don't want to reveal this. I feel like I can kind of get Brian later. So again, I have a 3-drop this turn. This could be anything from holding up Hullbreacher, which I think I will, what do you call that? Transcribe. Maybe it's just 1-2 Baragoyf. That seems so bad. Maybe it's like a 1-2 Baragoyf. 1-2. 1-2 Baragoyf. How does that sound? So I go Hullbreacher on the... And then I can actually... Okay, I can actually stack them like this, which is kind of cool. If I expect this to survive, I can mill into the Hullbreacher. Okay, let's try that for science. So put back those, play Chrome, imprint diminishing returns begrudgingly, play Baragoyf. No, I don't know what. I messed up. I messed up. I for some reason thought I had the right mana. Ooh, okay. Restart. I kind of botched it here, to say the least. I think I need a Fatal Push and a Hullbreacher. Dang, that was bad. Okay, I botched the order. I was supposed to have Hullbreacher in hand so that I could grab diminishing returns and something else from this, but I stacked it as if I could play Baragoyf. Magic too hard. Orcish Bowmasters and Hullbreacher. So maybe... Let's play Baragoyf Swamp. And pass the turn. Kill failure right away if it shows up. Ah, watched it. Too hard to maneuver. So not only is my deck not very good, neither is my play here. Okay, well, Swords to Plowshares. So I guess I was wrong about Brian suspecting... Ooh, nice. I guess I was wrong about Brian suspecting Show and Tell. So I get to Bowmaster against the basic lands. Here's another land. Yeah, I mean, let's just try and attack here. Holding up Hull Breacher in case of random cantrip. Stoneforge Mystic. That card is fine with the way this game is going. I think I'm supposed to... Tameo. I think I'm supposed to end step the Hull Breacher. Because that's like the biggest mana investment and I can keep attacking here. Diminishing returns. Yeah, would be pretty nice. But we can't really do much about it. Let's kill the Stoneforge. And now I guess cast Brainstorm. So this doesn't untap, which is hilarious. So I just want to be able to cast Bowmasters next turn. This is not a game where diminishing returns is going to do anything. What about Narset? Maybe that card is, you know, realistic. But yeah, this looks very bad now. Back to basics. Pretty strong. Nice surveil in, buddy. All right, diminishing returns into the yard. And, yeah, I'm in trouble, to say the least. Stoneforge. That's the stabilizer. Because I know my top card is bad. Yeah, I think Brian got it here. My deck, or my draw, or, you know, good combination was just bad against... It was bad against just bread and butter. Plow this, Tameo that, Stoneforge that. Not much of a chance here. All right, let's play the last one. All right, last deck's an old friend of mine. This is Temur Cascade. I played this deck to a showcase top 8 at some point, I believe. A few years ago, this deck aims to cascade using Violent Outburst or Shardless Agent into Crashing Footfalls and kind of play a Delver game plan where you tap down your opponent's stuff, you counter their stuff, you bounce their stuff, and you finish things off with a couple of Rhinos. I also have a couple of Minskin Boosts and a couple of Murktides to up my threat density. Murktide is good with, you know, Violent Outburst into Crashing Footfalls, cast Force of Will, and already there you have a 6/6 Murktide regen the turn after. And Minskin Boo, you know, we could play it as early as turn 1 with our 8 Spirit Guides. So this deck is pretty cool. The 8 forces could be great against a bunch of the field. Mana base has the Wasteland. Lauren Revealed doubles as blue card and mana source. Sideboard, there's this spicy number, Inevitable Betrayal, which is essentially a bribery, and I love the artwork. You can sideboard into that against decks with Fatties, Endurance against Graveyard and Tempo, some anti-artifact cards here, Magus of the Moon for when the opponent's mana base is ambitious. It's pretty good that we have Lauren Revealed against Island, and we have Spirit Guides that adds green, so we have a decent counterplay under a Magus, even if we have to, you know, only have a duel at the time we cast it. Dismembers, because they get around the Cascade Clause, and then a couple of Disputes for any Force of Will matchup. All right, let's play some more. All right, last match, I'm playing Temur Rhinos. I'm on the draw. Bosh revealed a Yorion is on a mulligan to 6. Yeah, I like my hand. This looks like turn 3 with a backup. I draw Spirit Guide turn 2 with backup. Not bad, not bad. Funnily enough, that will give away my deck, but I think it's the right play here, which is a little bit funny. Forest, suspend, pass. My current force card is Murktide Regent. Main deck Collector Roof. So Brian is also on a big Zenith deck here. This could be the... Ooh, Delta. So a big Sultai deck. That's funny. Kind of like I had planned. So Crashing Footfalls ticking down. Here's a land, which actually makes this better for me, because now I'm going to cast Rhinos with double force backup. Nothing happens. I will go and fetch Thundering Falls. Let's see if something terrible happens to me in the meantime. Okay, Ryan likes to card. I have Rhinos coming. Let's see. Grist. Grist is a card I will force a will. Pitching. Lauren revealed, because this Murktide might be good if I draw a blue card later. So Brian is also on a big Sultai Zenith deck. That is really, really funny. So Brian knows that that card is coming. This card is not useful. It could be, but I don't think it's useful enough. Let me put it that way. Ooh, I draw Agent, so that's going to be good later. For now, I want to... Is this where I just go? No, it's not. I think this is where I pass this card. Violent Outburst. Try and Cascade. Cast Crashing Footfalls. I will force and negate any attempt here. Okay, I get the Rhinos. I have a bunch of more of those coming, which is awesome. But the thing is, this card just gets bricked by a single Baraglyph these days. So there's that. Ooh, Brian can take me out here. And then I would need to draw another land to even have access to the Shardless. Murktide is practically a dead card now. Hopefully Brian has a tough call here between wastelanding and developing his own stuff. Yep, that is exactly why my deck is not winning tournaments anymore. Because of the card Baraglyph. That card is just incredible against what I have going on here. All right, the Rhinos are coming next. Dang, that was abysmal. Because now this agent is dead. Oh boy. Let's cut Brian off green. Let's pass. I will now have to perform a double block on a Baraglyph. I cannot let Brian shoot the sheriff, because then he can attack freely. If he counters this one, I'm almost dead. I don't know. I get 2 more, I guess. Let's see if he takes the medicine. He doesn't attack there. So now I have 4 Rhinos in play. And I have more coming. That's not bad. Okay, I'm getting forced on that one. That makes sense. And then I draw the force, which is funny. Okay, so we're in kind of a stall, but I have 2 Rhinos on suspend, and I have force blue card. And I play a deck with Brazen Borrower, Fire Ice. There's hope here. Good draw, because Murktide Regent is also something that destabilizes, I guess, would be the proper term. Quantum Riddler, draw 1 card. I will accept. Yeah. Why don't I go ahead and surveil once more? Blue mana would be awesome. This does nothing. Blue mana. Minsk and Boo. All right, pass. Rhino's coming next turn. So, worth noting is, that doesn't let me attack until I find a Brazen or a Fire Ice. Brian's not had enough yet. Let's make some more Rhinos. These are the last Rhinos in the deck, worth noting. Okay. And there's a land, so I'm dangerously close to Minsk and Boo now. Brian is stuck after that wasteland, so I like that. Okay, there's green. Up the beanstalk. I don't think that is something I can accept. Force of will the beans. Violent outburst is, let's see, that means I get in for 15, but yeah, that's not going to do it. Pass. So this is a weird situation where if Brian attacks, what do I make of that? Do I block with 3 rhinos? I think I'm slowly but surely losing here. Yep, Tamio's good. And another beans. Yeah, that's brutal. That is brutality. Okay, so this confirms the Zenith. I guess the Oof did as well. Spirit guides. Now I can go Minsk and Boo. What do I do with the Minsk and Boo? Minsk and Boo. Resolves. Make the token. So now I can put a counter on a Rhino and attack for 7. Is that good? I guess that's pretty good. Let's attack for 7. Brian can trade, which I would love. Brian can take the damage, which is fine. Okay. Brian decides to block because if he doesn't get rid of that, then the next turn I can fling it for 7. So kind of taking the medicine there. Also, the Boo was a good chum blocker, right? I get a new one every turn. This turn is big for Brian. Let's see. Brian can play Quantum Riddler. Never seen this card before. This looks awesome. 6/6 flying lifelink. Spells you cast have delve. When you cast a spell, you lose life equal to its mana value. Okay. So, big boy is big. Very big. Flying lifelink. That card is gonna cook me pretty good here. Flying lifelink. Brutal. What happens if I... Can I do something smart here? Because I need to get that card off the board. What happens if I attack with everybody? And then see what this says. If it was a hamster, draw the cards. So the thing is, the outburst makes it so that... Yeah, this card is really strong. Okay, I'm going to try and attack here and see what happens. If my opponent blocks Minsk and Boo, I'll go Violent Outburst. And then fling a Rhino onto this card. Brutal. What will Brian read into this attack? Maybe it just says, sure, buddy. Take 13. It looks like I found the line here. Let's see if there's a force of will. So now get in for damage. And then I can finish that card off. Sacrifice a creature onto that card. And then pass the turn. Yeah, I found a sweet line there where the combat trick of Violent Outburst was a difference maker. Magic's a tough game. Let's see what Brian can do about the Minsk and Boo, because there's only one attacker here. Quantum Riddler is in the exile. Brian can draw some cards with Tamio. Okay. So Minsk and Boo is not getting pressured. I do like that. And what is the move now? Is there a better play than Quantum Riddler? There's no better play than that. Okay, so Brian draws a couple of cards. I really don't want to see like land fatal push and what have you. That would be backbreaking. Cameo flips. Wasteland keeps me off red. Yes, use the ability. Draw another blue, which is now hard cast negation. That's not nothing. But what if I put a, let's see. Yeah, I guess I should pump the Rhino and try and attack Tamio for 6. Because that card can, you know, start bringing back stuff. Right now, it's not that bad, but could be. Brian needs to let that happen because my Planeswalker is getting out of hand. Play land, pass. And yeah, this actually turned into a great game. Brian has been weathering the storm. I made a cool play with Outburst. We're now trading Planeswalkers. And yeah, Minsk and Boo is a dead guy. Tons of mana over there. I am rooting for my opponent to cast a spell. Yeah, that card, I cannot stress enough how much that card destroys the Rhino deck. Highland Outburst, that's funny. Violent Outburst. The opponent gains 6. That's up to 20. This card will hit me back. Brian is up and running here. All right. I've had enough. Good. That was a great game. Brian did very well that game. Baragoyf. What a crazy card. And now I feel like I should sideboard like this. Maybe even take out... maybe not take out more forces. Maybe that's just crazy. How do I feel about Dismembers? Dismembers are probably fine. I think this Magus could do a lot of damage. Fire Ice might be not the greatest. I think it's okay against like a Baragoyf deck. Okay. Brian easily handled 6 Rhinos. Maybe not easily. I think I got him to sweat here. So yeah, the Magus gives me a little bit more threat density. In general, when you play a deck like Rhinos or Stompy style decks or Doomsday, Show and Tell, like proactive decks, you would rather present Haymaker after Haymaker rather than rely on having force backup for the first Haymaker. It's just whether you can, sure, you can power through with that, but if that doesn't happen, if it fails, you're really in the dirt. So I prefer back-to-back Haymaker over Haymaker with backup. And then, of course, we need one more card to do the backup thing. So there's that as well. You're a little better against Mulligans, a little better against Thoughtseize, stuff like that. But yeah, that was a nightmare to play against double Baragoyf. Baragoyf, Consigned to Memory, those cards are basically the reason why Rhinos is not a tournament winning deck anymore. Just too much like splash damage, basically. We need the format to be, you know, small creatures and lightning bolts and what have you for this deck to be awesome. Once it starts to become, you know, plows and pushes and Baragoyfs, even Murktide Regent stabilizes nicely against 2 Rhinos. And then it's a tough one. All right, let's see if we can do a little bit better here. Brian, as I said, did a good job fending off the onslaught. The thing about this hand is it plays very well from the top. but it right now doesn't do anything. So now the question is double surveil enough? Turn 1. I'm going to try it. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great either. Let's see. Turn 1, suspend. Turn 2, surveil. Turn 3, surveil. And then at that point, I have hopefully found a threat or two, but yeah, it's close. I don't love this. I am actually okay going basic forest here. I think that is an acceptable play. Because it opens up Magus, you know, it makes Magus better, essentially. Forest, is this just Zenith? So worth noting is the opponent has basic forest. The Magus of the Moon is way less interesting now. Murktide Regente. Let's play the Surveillant. Let's keep that card. Okay, so Surveillant and Draw Step did their jobs here, coming up with relevant stuff. I'm a little bit scared these Spirit Guides are not good here. Ooh, Beanstalk is awesome here for Brian. Is this Wasteland or Surveil? It's Wasteland. Well, we, funnily enough, don't care about that. Because of our Spirit Guide. Let's fetch Volcanic Island and make some Rhinos. Or at least try. Alright, Violent Outburst. Crashing Footfalls. Pretty pivotal here, I'll say, if I get forced. I think I'm in trouble. If I don't get forced, okay, I do get forced. Yeah, I think I'm in trouble now. Tevel, Arbiter of Virtue. That was a cool one. Very cool card. Making everything have Delve. That's awesome. Disruptor Flute. Naming. Crashing Footfalls. This way, it's a 3-drop from Exile, which I don't like. Magus of the Moon. This will make my opponent play mono green. And I can't play the game from that spot. So now my only chance is my end-step Brazen Borrower catches some heat. Because my opponent doesn't know that I can pay for the Rhinos. So the dream is to get countered on the Brazen, in other words. So I guess if my opponent slams Baragorf here, the plan changes. Because now I have to try and strand that in my opponent's hand. Petty Theft on the Baragorf. Let's cast it. Via the Spirit Guide. I guess I need a Force at Will here. I do draw Force Will. Oh my god. Yeah, I was about to say, before getting lucky, that I did not think this through, because the bounce... The 1-2 punch with the bounce will was supposed to be Magus. So now, let's see if we can really do it all by forcing the Baragorf, drawing a mana source, and trying to lock out the opponent. That's the dream. Let's see the follow-up. The follow-up is an Edict. I can live with that. If I draw mana source here, I'm the king of the castle. I don't draw mana source, and I'm not the king of the castle. So let's say, yeah, what would I even have done here? I probably just deployed 10 power if I I'm sorry, if I draw land next time, I probably just deploy 10 power, but let's see what Brian has up his sleeve here. Yorion put to hand. It's annoying, but let's see it. Ooh. This looks like something awesome. Yep. So Brian is just putting 1 more mana into it for beanstalk purposes, but let's see what he actually finds. I'm just saying you might find a 3-drop. Here's Grist. Grist kills that card. Yeah, that is pretty good. I think it's time for me to draw land. Yep, that's probably going to do it. The Baragorfs, dang. I'll be thinking about those. So strong against Rhinos. So let's say I draw land here. I probably just deploy 10 power. This seems unwinnable. Let's just see what Brian can do. Let's see how he can finish the game off. A little bit of brainstorm action. And then using Grist as a half of a shuffle. Not bad. Ooh, Brian brought in Toxic Deluge. That's a cool one. Here's a bird. So funnily enough, we both signed up with Birds of Paradise. That's pretty hilarious. Here is Brazen Borrower, but this is not going to cut it against, you know, Grist, Beanstalk, etc., etc. All right, let's extend the hand. Right-click Concede and break things down with Brian. Guys, we are back with the debrief of the basement battle. 3 more epic matches of Legacy are in the books, and I'm here with Brian, Bosh and Roll. Hey, Brian, how are you feeling after a cool set like that? Pretty awesome, huh?
Well, Bug, Yori on Control, undefeated in this set. Both of us chose to bring versions of it. I'm excited about that news. Bring back
Oh,
Control.
yeah. Yeah, so that sets me up nicely to talk about the first match. My deck of choice was a natural order deck. 4 orders, 2 attracts, a solid blue-black shell, and then a slim Zenith package. Yorion to fit it all, but also to make sure I don't draw, you know, Dryad Arbor and what have you when I don't want it. I was excited about that one, and yeah, remind me what I was up against, because it seems like a lifetime ago, even though it just happened.
Yeah, you're up against the Moonshadow aggro deck with a big twist. The Chains of Mephistopheles lock also included in that list.
Yeah, because when I saw the Anvil of Bogard, and I believe that's the word, it was like, oh yeah, I remember playing that in like Dual Commander with Leovold. That was like a pseudo lock of sorts.
Yep.
And I was like, oh yeah. So then when you mill, your guys grow because it's like descend and, you know, stuff like that. But I didn't really at any point put together the whole lock with chains. And before I think, you know, before you know it, I'm under a lock after a questionable wasteland decision, because I was all clever saying I'll kill the red source and then I'll do like when I play against Breakfast, I kind of let the saga die and let them just enjoy the Shuko, whatever. And if I get punished, I guess it's also cool. So for me, it was like a win-win situation. And you sure did punish me with what's the artifact
A
called?
currency converter.
Currency. Yep, absolutely. So maybe talk a little bit about like the role of Uro here and what kind of lock you had set up.
Yeah, the basically what Chains of Mephistopheles does, and there's a lot of words on that card, but ultimately what it does is it says players' hands can't get any bigger. So if you would draw more cards, you have to discard first. And then if you don't have any cards, you just mill instead of drawing. And your hand can never get any bigger. And then the anvil forces you to draw and discard all at once in one action. So there's no window in between to
Window,
even
right?
flash
Yep.
out an instant. So you have to draw, which wastes your draw for the turn. Then you have to discard. Now everyone's hand gets inevitably smaller to the point where everybody is locked, where nobody gets a new card in their hand ever again that they can cast. But on the turn where I went for it and flipped it and just dumped both our hands in the graveyard while I was slightly ahead on board, you happen to discard Uro. And that one was big because obviously having access to literally anything when my job is to give you literally nothing was big. And then you also had the Yorion, which bought you 1 turn to actually select what you find rather than
Yeah,
getting out of the lock. So,
that was the exception to the rule that my hand couldn't grow. It did with the Yorion, which let me
yep.
cast a Zenith for a live card, right?
Yes, you had 2 ways to work out of the loop. I think I could have beaten just Uro or just Yorion, but having the Uro and then on the turn that you bought your Yorion, being able to loot into Zenith on that moment was a you flipped the lock on me, and I was just looking at
Yeah.
my stuff like, "Can I win this? Like, even if I trade with this Uro, you'll just cast it again. It doesn't matter."
Right, because I had 4 man on board, but I
Mhm.
then faced a well, at least difficult decision for me later, where I had to kind of stay back with a halfling and a 1/1 because they combine and kill a 2/2 on defense. But then that would bring me off of 4 mana for the remainder of the game. So that Uro in play was now it had to stay there. So at that point, do you have any card you can draw? Do you have a window to cast cards this game? I don't think you do. Do you?
No, I think I was already dead at that point. I could have there was if I had 1 turn to breathe, which I didn't because I was at 4 by the time that happened, but I was at 10 for a long time and I was trying to set up
Yes.
I have the Phoenix you can bestow from the graveyard by collecting evidence,
Yes.
and I had currency converter which could make treasures. So I if there was a sequence where it's like make a 2/2 in your end step, mill the Phoenix, make a treasure, bestow the Phoenix onto the 2/2, even then it's still smaller than Uro. I have to find like another Phoenix and bestow again. It's so slim, but
Yeah.
I would have conceded if I was all the way dead, but at the very end there, when you gave
Yeah.
up your 4 mana, you were pretty safe.
Yeah, because for me it was a puzzle. We've talked about this continuously that these cards I've seen them all before, but now I have to put it together on the fly, and I'm certainly not a professional at doing that. So I think it's also a little bit just comedy to see me try and work out these puzzles. So I
Right.
always find it's a good challenge, but it may seem super simple for somebody watching, and they're like, "What are you talking about? You have Brian in a headlock. You have a planeswalker. Like this is easy." But for me, I had to try and play smart, and yeah,
Right.
I found a solution in the end, which put me ahead in the match. But that didn't last for long. Next match was my Demir Nishing Returns deck, where I basically just put 10 draw punishers and 5 draw sevens in a like ancient tomb Chromok shell, and you were playing the bread and butter, as I jokingly said on Discord, that bread and butter wins again. Stoneforge deck with, I guess, Riddler and Dog.
Yeah, there's Thalia, Riddler. This build still has like fourth Aerolingus and some super top end stuff. There's no Dazes, no Wastelands, which is how people tend to be building it right now.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Uh,
it's one of my favorite decks actually in Legacy.
yeah,
Like no Stoneforge package, like tempo shell with stifles and stuff.
yep, yeah. This is the full Jeskai control Thalia Stoneblade
Yep.
experience. All basic lands, pretty much. We had the back to basics. Get 3 of your lands in game 2. There's also a ruination in the sideboard that I didn't bring in. Just heavy hate on that. Just it's like a deck from 6 years ago, and it makes me really happy.
Oh yeah, and that is that's very important. But yeah, I just basically had no chance here. You stopped my stock ups, you fought over my mana, and you 1-for-1 my seemingly trump cards. My deck is essentially trying to either get you with some of the punishers or play against an unblue deck and try and actually combo with diminishing returns. I'm really annoyed that that card is not worded like Time Twister, like it's a May, so the opponent can just not give me treasures if I have Hull Breacher, for
Oh
example.
wow, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that does a little bit for it. Like you can argue that if you get to mind twist your opponent and draw 7, you'll be fine most of the time, right? But it's a little bit annoying for when you have to ping the board and what have you. So
Right.
it's questionable if you didn't know that, and even more so when you now know the full wording. So, but yeah, I had a lot of fun building that at least.
Yeah, yeah. I've played a bunch of versions of Hull Breacher, Bowmaster, spin the wheel, see what happens kind of stuff. And I didn't recognize it. I was suspicious of your Chrome Mox. Like I
Yeah,
was sure you were a show and tell deck. And then like your Chrome Mox, when I saw the first diminishing returns, I thought maybe your Dream Halls, like show and tell Dream Halls. And then
sure.
then you played Bowmaster and Hull Breacher and the whole picture came together. But
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
unfortunately, you pieced it together after the danger was over, and not when what I was hoping for, the slam dunk. But that's how it is. It won a lot of games when I slept last night and I dreamed about it. Then it won a lot of games with the Hull Breacher into diminishing returns. So I'll take those.
yeah, and you kind of got by the classic uh, board out the removal versus combo decks thing because legacy players right now they can't help but put Tamio in their combo deck. And I just
Yeah,
saw blue black mana and
or
Tamio.
Baragoyf, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I saw Tamio. I presumed Barogoyf, and I didn't cut all my plows. And the plows I
Yeah,
did cut, I replaced with red blast. So I still had removal for Tamio, and I was a little softer game two than I was game one to the actual
right.
plan, but it wasn't that bad at all. And when you see the Tamio, you have to leave in a couple plows anyway, which hurts your hull
Yeah.
breachers. So
That's a great point. That's a great point that I didn't think about. In my bliss, I just thought the coast was clear and this Baragov was going to take over the game. I even actually had a small situation where I stacked a brainstorm so that I have a creature second from the top, and then I wanted to play a 1/2 Baragov so that I draw the non-creature and then I mill into the actual creature. But then I realized, no, this Chrome Mox is not a Rainbow Mox, and then I had to cast stock up and I messed up my plans there. But
okay,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I had a 1/2 Baragov and then setting up the creature underneath. I thought I was smart. Again, momentarily smart, but in the long run, not too smart. That was cool. You easily dispatched me in this match. Let me put it that way.
for sure. Yeah, and the the I brought in one back to basics from the sideboard because your mana looked pretty greedy game one, and I wasn't really sure what you were doing, and
Yep.
it ended up being good for triple stone rain. And at the end
Yep.
of the game, you had I think you pitched a diminishing returns to a Chrome Mox when you had
Yes.
4 or 5 tapped lands, which it would have won the game instantly if you were able to cast it. So 3 stone rain's pretty good.
Yeah, certainly. What would you say the floor is for a card like Back to Basics? Kill 2 lands and then everything else is gravy.
I mean, pitch to force is probably the
Okay, but
basement
in
on
the
it.
land destruction. So in other words, you
Yeah,
would if it was a red card, the floor has to be higher, of course. But in the land destruction department, would you say it's worth it if it's 2 or more?
I think so. And that sideboard literally has ruination in it, which I didn't bring in, but I did bring in back to basics. So blue was the tiebreaker on that kind of effect in the matchup because I
Yeah.
also brought
Yeah.
in 2 other forces. So I went from 4 to 6 forces and then added back to basics as a blue card as part of an
Yeah.
overall package. And it just worked out that I
Yeah.
had 0 forces and you had a bunch of non-basic lands in the game we actually played.
Yeah, that was not bad. Have the
Right.
plow and the lane destruction when that is lines up nicely. You will always take those.
Yep.
All right, so that means the score is even, and I am sleeving up my Rhinos deck that I was somewhat excited to play. Aside from the cards I mentioned on my end, which was Consign to Memory, being a magic card, which is horrendous for Cascade, and then good old Baragorth. And
Yep.
it was comical that you actually just stabilized with that card. I guess you actually played very well. Let's not try and remove the focus from that game one. You had to stave off 6 Rhinos with a bunch of backup and then win on turn whatever. How did you like my violent outburst attack there with your into your 6/6 lifelinker? Because that's probably the highlight for from my POV.
Yeah, that was sick. It was clear what you were trying to do, but I didn't I didn't think about violent outburst being able to make the boo lethal on my 6/6 as well. But
Nice.
I also just I can't play around that, right? Like the alternative is take 17 in combat. Like or 3, 5, 10, 15, 16. Yeah, you had 3 rhinos and boo. Like the alternative is take 17. And you
Or block a
still
Rhino.
well, I I don't want to block the rhino because on board you can kill
Got
Tival
it.
with the Rhino
Yeah.
Fling.
Sure.
That's the face up play that I was trying to avoid by blocking the 1/1. And
Yeah.
I guess if I read that, I forget what my life total was at that point, but I don't think it was 40, which is about where I'd want to
I
be
think,
to be that
funnily enough, I
comfortably.
think it was 23, but I don't know why I
Okay.
get that number.
Okay. Yeah. So that attacks for 17, and then you can fling a Rhino for another 5. You could do 22 of my 23 points there. That's actually really scary. I was not thinking about the pump mode at all,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I was playing around the Minskin Boo, obviously, and that
Yeah.
was
The
still
onboard.
worth a cajillion life because I gain the 6, I block the 2, you delete a 4/4 forever. It was a pretty good play for sure.
Yeah, I liked it because it wasn't an auto play for you. It actually altered a little bit the smoke screen there. So I just love to find stuff like that on the fly. And yeah, the pump. It's been many years since I've used that as a combat trick, but
Right.
that was a pretty fun one. But yeah, Baragoyf, what a card against just one card that stops makes. Because I qualified for a showcase with this deck just like 2 years ago, maybe it's 2.5, but now it's just laughably bad into the top decks of Legacy.
Right.
Just Murktide Regent or Baragoy for consigned to memory everywhere. Yeah, I like this deck a lot, but it wasn't the matchup for it, I will say. What did you do sideboard wise in against my deck? Did you have consigns and stuff like that?
I don't think there were consigns. I brought in a bunch of disruptor flutes, which are kind of like consign. At the end of the day, they do a similar thing.
Yeah,
Um, I brought in a bunch of spot removal. There was like an extra edict and an extra fatal push in my sideboard. I brought those in. I already had 4
yeah,
Barrowglyphs in the main. We were already good there. Yeah,
yeah.
it it was pretty much just treat you like a tempo deck, and
Yes.
I did that.
I usually, when I explain the deck to people back in the day, that this is just like an explosive Delver deck with a way higher ceiling, and obviously can fall flat as well. But it's just a Delver deck with more variance essentially,
Right.
because you're trying to do the same thing: deploy fast creatures and have some permission and hope to get over the hump.
Yep.
That was cool. We had some stall situations where I was looking for something like Brazen or Fire Ice, like when that Baragorf was keeping back the squad. I think I have 3+3, not a ton, but still pretty decent outs. But yeah,
Yep.
that kind of time period where I could put you away, it just took too long basically. And then the real deck, as in normal spells, will take over, and the Spirit Guide deck will fall short in a longer
Yep.
game. I think that's somewhat natural. The last game, I conceded the game with 4 3-drops in hand and just stuck on 2. I needed probably the land right away rather than keep drawing the 3-drops to be competitive there. And your engine took over, Beans and Riddler. Just again, that's what happens if this deck doesn't keep pressing the gas. The deck with real magic cards will prevail. So I don't know. Do you agree with that analysis in general?
Oh yeah, of course. It's just the classic who's the beatdown, who has inevitability, and the Yorion Beanstalk deck is obviously going to have inevitability over the deck that's trying to make 8 power on turn 1 or 2 and then back it up a couple times. I was actually disappointed you conceded when you did, because I had set up Hardcast Atraxa for the next turn, and I was trying to stunt on you a
Yeah,
little bit,
I
and I think you
I
smelled it, and
thought
you were like, I don't want to see that today. I'm done."
if I smelled it, I would have not conceded. I will tell you that because I do like a good show. I actually regret. I should not have done that. I should have just passed and let you do your thing there. I'll remember that for next time.
Yeah, I drew the Atraxa on that turn, and I was like, I don't really want that. But then I brainstormed into land number 6 and Birds of Paradise, and it all just came
Yes.
together immediately off of one brainstorm. It's like, oh, actually, here it is.
Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, you need to send me some kind of secret signal next time so I can do that. Let that happen for the show. That'd be cool. I also had 3 Birds of Paradise in my buck deck, by the way. I didn't expect. How many did you play?
I think it's 2 bird, 2 delighted halfling in this build.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I play a 3-1 split. We
Okay.
can try and work out the details later to find out the optimal setup.
Yeah. How
That
many
should be cool.
Taval Arbiter of Virtue is in your build?
Never seen it before, but I'll certainly consider it for next time when I have 6 mana for a Zenith and not 8. And then for that big juicy Zenith, I'll remember that card.
Yeah, that's the meme card in the deck. Obviously, this comes from one of my Patreon subscribers who I played a full 5-match league for them a while back
Awesome.
when Tarkir
Yeah.
Dragonstorm first came out. But yeah, being able to like on 6 cast Taval and then immediately Zenith for Atraxa on the same turn with a 1 mana Zenith plus Delve 7, like
Oh,
that's
sheesh.
yeah, that's what we're
Yes, yes,
really
yes.
trying to do.
Oh, baby.
Yeah,
Yeah, it looked really awesome. It was one of those cards I couldn't let you on tap with, so
right.
I had to be creative instead of losing to it
Yeah, I was
in the
about to
show
have
closing.
a 2 mana Quantum Riddler from War with a Beanstalk in play and a handful of cards. You were definitely right to throw everything you could at that
Yeah,
creature.
yeah, it seemed like a turning point. Now I have a question. Let's say you're playing a competitive tournament tomorrow. You have to pick one of the 3 decks you played today. Which one are you bringing?
Probably the Stoneblade deck. That's just It's the closest to a top tier legacy deck that I would be happy with. I
Yeah,
think the Moonshadow aggro decks are awesome, but there's a little bit too much silly stuff going on in the build I played today. I'm not playing the Chains of Mephistopheles stuff, but uh, there's, I mean, there's the identity of a top tier legacy deck, or at least a competitive legacy deck inside all three of the decks I played, and then they all just got a
yeah,
little silly on the fringes. And I think the Stoneblade deck is the least silly. It's actually fine. It's just I'm not sure it's the best way you could build that deck for the metagame, but there's no Taval or Chains of Mephistopheles or anything in that deck. That one's the
that,
cleanest.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I'll go for the Natural Order deck, the one I played in the first round. I think that should be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
Natural Order
nice.
Atraxa can just win games,
For sure.
and then if you have some solid cards around it, it's not exactly Entomb Reanimate, but it's similar in the way that are you a mid-range deck or is Force Will actually good against your deck? That kind of dynamic I enjoy. So
Right.
I'll pick that one. But yeah, I mean, I think I've gotten most stuff off my chest. Do you have anything before we close down shop here?
No, that was a good basement battle. I think all of our decks held up. I was actually worried because my Discord mod who manages the voting for the decks, he kind of sent me like the nervous emoji. I was like last night I was like, you got decks for him? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, the Discord got a little wild this week. And honestly, the decks were fine. It was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And, a 2-1 record, winning the basement
Yeah,
battle as a result. I'll take it.
absolutely, and well deserved. You played well.
Great. Well, that's been this battle. If you're watching on Bosh and Roll, check out Eco Bronin. If you're watching on Eco Bronin, check out Bosh and Roll. And we'll see you for the next battle.